Holy crap, guys. I just saw a movie and I need to talk to you about it. I know I usually do stuff like unboxings and reviewing physical products on this channel, but I'm going to dive outside of that usual comfort zone for today to talk to you about this movie I just saw. I saw Twisted Pair by Neil Breen. Now, in case you're not aware of who Neil Breen is, um, I don't blame you. I only recently became aware of this man's brilliant filmography. He has made, I believe this is his fifth film now, and they're all legendary for being the next round of really, really bad film. Lately, there's been a lot of big wave of very popular but bad films made by independent filmmakers. I think the first real big one that gained in popularity, and of course there were more before this, but this is the one that kind of hit the mainstream in the what's called So Bad It's Good, was The Room by Tommy Wiseau, which is personally one of my favorite movies of all time for various reasons. What seemed to come after that was The Birdemic 1 and 2 by James Wen, and now more recently, kind of the big, hot, bad movie director is Neil Breen. His movies all seem to have a certain theme. They star, they're starring, directed by, written by Neil Breen, and the acting tends to be subpar. The plot is rather nonsensical. Now, I do have to admit, this is kind of on secondhand information. This is actually the first Neil Breen film I have actually seen from start to finish. I've seen several clips of his previous films online, as well as many reviews of the works. Mostly from people like Red Letter Media, The Cinema Snob, or Your Movie Sucks. I'm going to go ahead and link all their channels down there in the description. There's going to be a lot of links in that description, so I'll try to be as specific as possible about who I am talking about. But those channels, through them I became aware of Neil Breen and his filmography. And like I was saying before I distracted myself, his movies tend to have a central theme, and that is Neil Breen is the perfect being and he's going to fix the world. In one instance, it's pretty much literal, where he's some kind of space Jesus. Again, I haven't seen that one, but I am dying to. It looks right up my alley. So, when I saw on Twitter that Neil Breen was looking to get an actual full wide release of his current film, Twisted Pair, I jumped on that. I had to get in on that. So tonight was his screening here in Arizona. There was only one screening in the state, and I almost missed it. I went to the wrong theater, and I raced across town to get to the correct theater, and I barely made it in time. The screening's done by Alamo Draft House, where they have a policy that of no late entry. So if you're late, sorry, you're not seeing the movie. And I barely made it in on time, despite going to the wrong theater the first time. There's two of them in town. One in the usual one that I go to near my house, and one a bit further away. I didn't realize it was at the further away one when I went until it was too late. But I am so glad I got to see this film, because I honestly believe this is going to be my favorite film of the year. I mean, I know, I really liked Infinity War when that came out. And you know what? I'm sure I've seen other movies that are really good this year, but I can't even remember them. Right now, my mind is on Breen. Normally, what I'd like to go into when I'm talking about movies is I'm going to explain, well, what's the movie about? What's the plot? And I'm not really sure. I don't know what happened in this movie. It reminds me a lot of Primer, if any of you have seen Primer. If not, I highly recommend it. But the thing about Primer is that it's a time travel film. This being Primer, not Twisted Pair. I'll get to that in a second. But in Primer, it's a time travel film, but there's so many layers upon layers. It's one of those films that you're going to have to go back and watch it again and again and again to really understand what's going on in the film, let alone delve deep into it. And that's how I feel about Twisted Pair. It's one of those movies where I could barely understand what was going on. It was not the most comprehensible, but I'm gonna know, because I know I'm gonna need to watch it again and again to figure out what the crap it was I just saw. In the Breen style of being basically a god, Twisted Pair has Neil Breen playing twins. He's playing himself and his twin, and apparently when they were children, the twins were taken by some type of higher intelligence. I can't remember if they specifically stated if it was aliens or just implied to be aliens, but basically highly advanced aliens. And genetically altered and groomed them to be the saviors of humanity. But the main twin, Cade, he turned out good. He's basically Superman. Here are several very unconvincing scenes of him flying from rooftop to rooftop, which were always a laugh. But the bad brother, Kale, which I don't think is a real person name. It's a Saiyan name. It's the name of a character in the Dragon Ball franchise. I don't think it's the name of a real person. Forgive me if anyone's watching this whose name is Kale in real life, but I don't know if Kale is a real human name. But anyway, Kale is the bad brother, and he's got, you can tell he's bad because he wears hoodies and has a fake mustache and beard, a very fake mustache and beard. And the beginning of the film makes it seem like it's a film analyzing what does it mean to be a savior of humanity. Because like I mentioned, the alien intelligence took these two little kids and modified them to be saviors. Whereas the one brother, Cade, seems he's going to be a savior by being a good person, by saving people's lives, physically saving them and protecting them. Whereas Kale, the supposed failure, he seems to be going about it by actually hunting down and murdering bad people. You see at one point in the film, he kidnaps 3 corrupt businessmen, which as soon as they're corrupt, they just go into a long tantrum about all the terrible crimes they've committed, from car thefts to stealing from charities. They just ramble on about all their crimes. So his goal is to kidnap all the bad people and put them into his creepy torture basement. I don't see much of an end goal to that plan. Just, we're going to put them in my creepy torture basement, and that will save the world, I think. I don't know. Kale makes no sense, especially since, like I mentioned, it's implied that's the dynamic. It's kind of like the dynamic between Daredevil and the Punisher in season 2 of Daredevil, where it's like they're both trying to save the city, but one is doing it by her superheroics, and the other is doing it by murdering people, and they're at odds. That's not what this movie's about. At least I don't think it's what this movie's about, because I don't know what this movie's about. This movie was a trip, guys. Oh my gosh, I love this movie. You see in the beginning, the first maybe 10 minutes are a montage of science and an eagle. I'll get to the eagle in a second. Eagles flying, saying like, science is great, we're doing all these technological DNA splicing marvels, but science isn't as good as nature, but science is awesome. So we're advancing all these science stuff, and I was genetically modified by science, and I'm great, I'm a super being, but also science is great. But nature is better, but also science is great. It just goes on like that for 10 minutes. And then you see him in some war zone. I don't know where exactly it was supposed to be. Like, they'll be in the middle of a battlefield, and all of a sudden everything will pause, and he'll creep up. Like, I'm not even joking. Like this, he'll creep up, and like, I'm guessing telepathically message to the soldiers, "Come this way, you'll be safe." While time is paused, except for Neil Breen, so he's guiding the soldiers, I guess, to safety. And then once they're guided to safety, the building starts blowing up. You have a static shot of a building, and then you see some really bad CGI explosions just showing up on there repeatedly for way too long. But then they actually blow up the building, like the building in real life explodes, and they film it. So why do they use all this CGI explosions if they're just going to have a real explosion? I don't know. It went on for way too long. But after this super long montage, he gets a call from his boss, being like, "Good job, Neil Breen. You saved those soldiers." And then he starts talking about how this is why I'm the best, because I work alone and I don't have anyone watching over me. But like 30 seconds ago, you got a call from your boss. You're not working alone. You're not working independently. You clearly have a boss. We saw it 3 seconds ago. And then in the next scene, he's having a meeting with his boss where he's like, "I don't need weapons. I don't use weapons. Here, let me unload all of my weapons." It's not like 3 or 4 guns and just plops on the table, talking about how he doesn't need a gun and he doesn't carry a gun while he's unloading the guns he is currently carrying. That's a type of movie that this was. But the agency assigns him to a task about this terrorist, I guess. I don't know what the terrorists were trying to do. I don't know what the terrorists were trying to achieve. And I'm positive that the method at which the terrorists would do their terrorism changed from scene to scene. Oh, and before I get too deep into the whole terrorism plot, one thing that I found incredibly hilarious about the film is that clearly Neil Breen got permission to film at a local college. It appears to be a smaller college. Neil Breen is famous for filming his previous films in the area around Las Vegas, Nevada. So he seems to have gotten permission to film at some kind of Nevada university. And he uses the hell out of those sets. Like at one point, he has a wife. I forgot about the wife. I'll get to the wife in a second. I have just too many thoughts. He has this wife that, there's many scenes of them being adoring and loving, and a scene of them not being so loving and adoring. And again, I will get to that. But the loving and adoring, so he takes it to, he goes to what's clearly the outside seating area of a school cafeteria. And he's like, "Look, wife, I rented out this entire restaurant." And it's not a restaurant. It's the outside seating area of a cafeteria. And then he chuckles, like, "It's got the best service in town. Plus, it's free." And then, okay, that's obvious. It wasn't just a bad use of sets. That was an actual joke that he was trying to make. But it's a kind of movie where you can't tell if they're just, this is clearly a cafeteria, but you're trying to convince the audience it's a restaurant, or if you're making a joke. You can't really tell. But the reason why I brought up the college is because the terrorists have this facility, aka the college campus. And at one point, they're going to be making a massive neural network to take over the world somehow. And you see the neural network being what is obviously just a computer lab with a whiteboard and everything, and a bunch of computers, and every single computer has the screen on a Windows computer when you shut it down. I'll put a screen up somewhere. but the blue image was saying like Windows is shutting down. If you look closely, you can even see the text on all the computers saying Windows is shutting down. They took a screenshot of that and plastered it on all the computers of this neural network. It's kind of hard to take your terrorist threat seriously if none of the neural network computers work. They're constantly shutting down. So he sneaks into the building literally like this, and because he's mostly on a blue screen, it's like exactly like this where I'm not moving but I'm pretending like I'm moving stealthily. So he breaks into the college campus and blows up the computer lab. So okay, he's done. But then for some reason that doesn't finish off the terrorist plot. So he needs to break into what is obviously the same building over and over and over again and just blow up different rooms. Like at one point, he's blowing up the secret power line to the facility. But it's clearly a science lab. Like blatantly in the background is an eyewash station that you'll see at like any high school science lab. And he blows that up apparently. And yeah, the terrorists, the reason why I brought this up is the terrorists are run by a man named Coos. And it's really hard to tell. It doesn't seem to be able to focus on, it's basically two plots going on. One plot where Neil Breen is basically a superpowered secret agent trying to take down this terrorist unit. And the other plot is trying to figure out what his brother's doing. And the two plots don't intersect. They don't have anything to do with each other, and because they're both taking up screen time, they're kind of incomplete. I still don't know what the brother was doing. I don't know what his plan is. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know why he's in the movie, since most of the plot seems to be revolved around the whole Coos. Coos, I think it's pronounced, which is spelt like this. Ridiculous. On several occasions, he meets the head of the Coos terrorist unit, and the guy is speaking normally, but with like a demon noise filter. Like it's kind of like when you see crime shows, and the face is all covered in darkness, and the voice is distorted for the sake of the privacy of the individual. It's like that, but he's not masked. He just talks like that normally, I guess. Oh, and he's evil because every scene that he's in, he's just petting a bowl full of diamonds. Only they're really cheap fake diamonds, like the kind you would see on like children's toy jewelry. Man, guys, I don't know what's going on with this movie. Now, it sounds like I'm bashing it, but honest to God, I freaking love it because it's just part of the movie-going experience. Everyone who was there was in on the joke, and everyone was laughing and clapping throughout the entire movie. And some of the best moments of the movie were actually hearing other people in the theater realizing something before the rest of us did. Here's an example. At one point, like I mentioned earlier, the evil brother Kale kidnaps 3 businessmen. And at one point, I hear from a couple rows to the left of me someone say, "Is that a taped-on mustache?" I hear that, and I look closer, and it was. One of the kidnap victims, who's in several scenes of the movie, has a taped-on mustache. And I don't mean he has a mustache that's, obviously fake, like a mustache that's stuck to him via double-sided tape. That's not what I mean. What I mean is they clearly took Scotch tape, scribbled brown marker all over it, and then just stuck it to his face. He has tape on his face that we're supposed to believe is a mustache. And you just hear someone notice it, and then the entire theater notices it too, so we're all cracking up. Or at one point, he's staring at himself in the mirror, and his reflection turns into his brother. And someone goes, "Is his shirt inside out? Oh my God, his shirt is inside out. Why is his shirt inside out? You can see the tag." And everyone starts cracking up. But one of the biggest WTF moments of the movie is with the wife. This is what I was alluding to earlier. It's actually one of the few moments of the movie that was really uncomfortable. So after that 10-minute montage of Neil Breen as being great and then failing to establish the relationship between himself and whatever agency he works for, you see the good Neil Breen, Cade, walking down the street, and he bumps into a woman and knocks her papers all out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, let me help you." And the woman wants nothing to do with him. She's like, "Get away from me, you're a weirdo, you're a pervert, don't touch me, I want nothing to do with you." And for some reason, Cade uses his opportunity to ask the woman out. So he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, let me make it up to you, let me buy you a drink. Let's meet back here again tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I'll take you for a drink." She's like, no, I want nothing to do with you, get away from me, don't talk to me anymore. He's like, "What? Wait, let's just have a drink with me, I'll make it up to you, I'm sorry, let me just have a drink." So she storms off. Neil Breen turns to the homeless man that watched the whole altercation and goes, "She'll be back at 8. I bet you she'll be back at 8 o'clock. And then it doesn't cut. It's clearly like the same scene. Normally, in this type of situation, you would have some type of establishing shot or something to notate that time has passed. But it doesn't do that. It looks like he just leaves the frame, walks back in, and talks to the homeless guy again, and he's like, "Hey, it's 8 o'clock, she didn't show up. I guess I lost that bet." And pays him money and walks off. So then it cuts to an exterior shot of a house at night, and Neil Breen is doing a sneak walk. And you hear a voiceover. It's not dialogue, it's not him speaking out loud, but it's voiceover by Neil Breen, and it says, "Hey, there's the woman I saw yesterday. I'm gonna follow her." Which is creepy, because she clearly gave a "I want nothing to do with you" vibe. And this scene, if you recall, came after a 10-minute montage saying how much of the perfect human he is. And now he's going to randomly stalk a woman. It was really off-putting. And then it cuts to an exterior shot of another house where the woman walks in, and then nothing. And then you see Neil Breen sneaking through the shadows, and also walks in through the front door. So the entire audience is understandably disturbed. People are muttering that, like, "What's going on?" or like, "Neil, don't do it! Neil, you're better than this!" I'm not joking. People were literally making comments like that in the theater. But then it does almost like horror movie shots, where you see the woman walk down the stairs, and then some dramatic music plays. You just see Neil's shadow. You see him slowly come down the stairs, and the woman's in the kitchen, and you see the shadow just cast upon her, and then he sneaks up behind her and grabs her. And the two have this prolonged fight on a couch. And it's clearly, obviously the two actors are not trying to hurt each other. So it's one of those things where you can tell they're trying to act like this is a down and dirty fight without it actually being a down and dirty fight, because they're acting and because they can't shoot or edit around the fakeness of it. But he's grabbing her and trying to force her onto the couch and talk about, "You're mine, bitch," and like you should have gone out with me. You should have gone on the date with me. And everyone's like, everyone in the theater is like, "Oh my god, this is our hero? The hero who's supposed to be this genetically altered perfect being? What's going on?" And for some reason on the couch there was a painting, and the woman takes the painting and smashes it over his head. And he just gets madder as a result. And they're fighting and they're wrestling. And all of a sudden there's a pause in the fight, and Neil says, "So honey, what's for dinner?" Apparently the whole thing was a ruse. I don't know who for, outside of the audience, but that was a weird way of introducing, by the way, these two are married. and apparently they're into some weird shit. What the Neil? That was the movie's way of establishing that these two are in a loving relationship, and they act obsessed with each other for the rest of the movie, until it turns out that she is working for them. And this is why I brought up the problem with the two plots of the terrorist plot and the Cade plot. Because you have two groups of bad guys that are completely separate from one another. So at one point it's revealed that the wife is actually working for them. But I have no idea who they were referring to. Them could very easily have been part of the terrorist organization trying to take down the country, or she could have been working with Cade to try to kidnap and kill bad people. I don't know which. The movie doesn't establish which, because these two plots don't connect. Not just obviously from a storytelling perspective, this movie was all over the place. The acting was admittedly subpar, but better than most Neil Breen films I've seen. But the best part of any so bad it's good film are the technical inadequacies. And this film had it in spades. So, a frequent thing that happened in this movie was people would fade in and fade out of existence, usually on a blue screen. There's a lot of this movie that's filmed on a blue screen. So what will tend to happen is, in comedies where they're making fun of two people on a blue screen, what they'll do is they'll have it's usually a salesperson or someone who's trying to make a video project. They use a green screen to pretend like there's two of them on screen, but they can't get the timing of them talking to each other. So one version of the person will talk to the other person, and they'll either be too slow or too fast, and it doesn't work. And that's the joke.
But don't take it from me. Take it from me! What? Who are you? I'm the real Mr. Mystery. The great deals at this place are making me see double. Making me see trouble. Idiot! Don't just do it again!
This actually did that. There were moments where it's Neil Breen talking to Neil Breen on a green screen, and they couldn't, figure out how to time the dialogue between himself. So I swear there was at one point, the character responds to a question before the question was asked. So you'll have a scene like this. What are you doing? You're my brother. You're better than this. Tell me what you did with the bomb. Don't give me that crap. Don't tell me that you don't know. I know you know. Bomb? What bomb? I don't know what you're talking about. It goes just like that. Especially because they don't seem to establish the eye line very well. So frequently you'll have Neil Breen on screen with himself, having a conversation with himself, but they're looking not at each other. Like if I'm here and he's supposed to be here, we'd be looking at each other. But they're always looking this way, having a conversation with a character that's supposed to be right here. Or vice versa, if the character's here, he'll be looking this way instead of at each other. It's so hilarious. And on top of that, all of those scenes are done on a blue screen. Here's one thing I need to admit. As you've seen from my videos, I cannot do special effects. I don't know how. I haven't practiced that field. But I've done enough study in film where I know conceptually how it's supposed to work. What's supposed to be there. So that's why I can tell these things. On top of the fact that it was super obvious. So typically, when you're shooting a conversation like this, two people talking, they'll frequently do what's called shot reverse shot. And what that is it'll be me and another character talking to each other, and occasionally they'll have a shot this way, directed at me, and a shot this way, directed at them. And well, what will happen there is you'll have continuity of the background, where when it's filmed this way, you can tell you're looking at the background behind this character, which is different than the background behind me. So, I mean, if we're shooting in here, this angle would show my posters and stuff, that angle would show whatever's off on the screen over there. This didn't do that. This just had a static background that doesn't move between the different shots. So no matter what multiple angles were happening during this blue screen conversation, the background never changed. And it wasn't a subtle thing, it was super obvious. So you'll have a conversation that looks like this. Brother, what are you doing? You're working with the terrorists. In my opinion, you're the terrorists. What happened to us? We used to be so close. I don't know, brother. Things are just super complicated. You see? The background should be moving between those cuts, but they weren't. And it happens with every single scene like that. It's amazing. Again, this sounds like this is criticism, but it was so good. This is encapsulate so bad it's good. It's just hysterical. Also, I mentioned, I think I briefly mentioned earlier, what they would do is people would fade in and out of existence. But apparently, whoever was doing the effects couldn't figure out how to make the disappearing guy disappear while still allowing the world to move. So you'll be having a conversation, people will be talking, and someone will disappear, and the entire rest of the world just freezes. You know, let me show you an example. You won't get away with this, Unicorn Frog. I won't let you take over the world. You can't stop Unicorn Frog. Unicorn Frog will take over the world. Now, it's time for me to vanish. Again, I'm not joking. That happened with every single fade. And the fades, just like in my example, took way too long. I cannot stress this enough. It's gonna take an amazing movie to top this is my best movie of the year. Bar none. There's just something so cathartic of watching a bad movie, but just with so much heart behind it. It's scary. Neil Breen films can be very scary. I haven't gotten into his whole theme of everyone I disagree with should be murdered. That's prevalent through all of his films. But we're going to ignore that for now and just focus on the lighthearted fun of just watching the stumbling incompetence. But again, you know, he must be doing something right, because that was a packed theater. There are theaters all across the United States that'll be playing this film. And if your local theater hasn't shown it yet, by the time this video comes out and is edited, go see it. You will be in for a treat. If you're into so bad it's good movies. If you're not into so bad it's good type of movies, maybe sit this one out. But if you like movies that are so bad it's good, you need to see this film. I need to see the rest of his library, because holy crap, this was amazing. And the problem with this is that my memory sucks, and I've only seen the movie once, so I just keep remembering more things I need to talk about. So I know I'm just wrapping things up, but I have to continue. I mentioned the eagle earlier. Way back in the beginning when I was talking about the whole montage of technology is good, but also there's nature, but there's technology. During the nature portion of that, the film cuts to what is clearly stock photo of an eagle landing on a pole, like a fence post. And it's in slow motion, being all majestic, and it's going on way too long. And then out of the corner comes blue screen to Neil Breen, and he's pretending like he's trying to pet the eagle and, like, oh, like, interact with it. And it's so weird. It's so weird. And I swear to God, he's petting it. He's petting it. He's getting closer. His eyes start to close. His lips go out. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to make out with the eagle. And the shot cuts before he does. But he was going in for an eagle kiss. I swear it. I don't care that it was stock footage, so the eagle was never actually there. He was going to make out that eagle. And that eagle, one of the funniest things about the film is actually watching the end credits. Because they're not well done. So what they'll do is, like, they'll show the main characters, then halfway through, it has a credit for the stock footage eagle, which was apparently played by an eagle named Astro Eagle, which is awesome in and of itself, but it's listed halfway through the credits. So normally, if you watch a film with an animal star in it, it'll have all the humans, and then at the bottom, like, also featuring, so-and-so is the dog, or whatever. This had the stock footage eagle right in the middle of the credits. So you have human, eagle, and then a bunch more humans. And how crappy must you feel to get billing behind a stock footage eagle? Remember the soldiers that I mentioned that in the beginning of the film Neil Breen saved? All of them were credited after the stock footage eagle. That's not how you do things. Also, I don't know if this is a running joke or if it's Neil Breen's attempt to be professional, but one of the things he did in the credits here that he's done in his other films is that if you've ever watched credits before, it's not just actors. Everyone involved in the production is on there. So there'll be things that you may not necessarily think about, like transportation, the people who transport the actors to and from the sets. There'll be craft services, the people who feed the actors every single day. The makeup department, things like that. So for those credits, there would be a company name. So it'd be like craft services, like drinks and food catering, or like makeup by BBB Productions. And it'll go through all that, and then at the very end, at the very, very bottom, it'll mention all the companies listed above that have either a B or an N in the credits are fictitious, and that job was actually done by Neil Breen. It's like, why? Why would you feel the need to lie about who's filling these departments, and then just be like, sorry, I can't maintain this lie. I did it all. Right there at the very end. It's so weird. You don't do that. But it's things like that just make these type of films so fun to watch. And as the movie ended, and you have this creepy shot of Cade and Cale just looking out at nothing for a while. Everything cuts to black, and it says, Cale will return, or Cade will return. The character had a last name, but I don't remember what the last name is. But I was like, Cade will return. Like it's the end of a Marvel movie. And when that happened, the entire theater, including myself, stood and applauded. I have never been to a screening in my life where the entire audience gave a standing ovation. I've been there where the occasional person will clap. Some people who are really too into the movie will give a standing ovation. But those are usually at like your Star Wars films or, your Star Trek films or your big budget pop culture movie. Not this kind of movie. When I went to see The Room in theaters, that didn't get a standing ovation. Granted, it wasn't the same, but you get my meaning. And literally, every time Neil name came up in the credits, there was another round of applause. It was just that good of an experience and that fun of a movie. So once again, if you're into So Bad's good movies, check it out. And I guarantee, I talked about the movie a lot, but I guarantee there's a lot that I missed, or even there's maybe been some stuff that I misremembered. This movie's a trip, guys. So feel free to, discuss this movie with me on my Twitter or the comments below. We can talk about it more if you want. Because I'm sure there's stuff I got wrong and misremembered, and there's some really awesome stuff that I left out. Go see it for yourself. I don't care if it's in theaters or if you rent it or not rent it. You probably won't be able to rent it. If you buy it, whatever, see this movie if you like this kind of thing. But anyway, I've talked on long enough. I need to get back to doing something. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I don't know how to end this. Bye! Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as I have enjoyed making it. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, and then go ahead and click the bell icon afterwards. That will allow you to know as soon as my next video comes out for each and every video. You should definitely check out my Twitter. It's going to be here somewhere on screen, and if you do, you'll be able to check out the next Viewer's Choice poll when that comes out. Thank you so much again for watching, and feel free to click one of the videos down here to see even more of my content. Thanks again.